All right, welcome back to wherever you're either watching this or hearing this, whether it's on Stellar Sessions podcast or on my YouTube channel. I'm excited for today's conversation where I'm sort of doing like a part two, but in a chit chat type of way to my presentation, which I aired either last week or the week before. Which was all around how you can transform your business by having a very, very clear brand personality and how we can use brand archetypes to help us with our branding. And I also explained there the difference between a brand and branding. So we spoke about how a brand is a logo, and branding is more about how people perceive your brand, about the emotional connections between you and between your customers and your brand, and how your brand makes people feel. And that's more where it comes into branding. And the reason that the inspiration for today's podcast is I had almost a 3.5 hour call with a client of mine in which I'm helping him build his brand. And the conversation was so long because we were speaking about branding. And I kind of felt that it was just the perfect conversation where I wish I could share beyond what I'm going to share here, but I can't, when it comes to the ups and downs and the different things that you need to think about when you're building your brand on a branding level. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story about this, and hopefully each one of you will find it relatable to your branding. We're going to speak about how we actually build a brand identity, and how building that brand identity can then shape your product line. And that's kind of the point of the first part of the podcast. And then the second part is why, or it'll probably be mishmashed together because I'm doing a chit chat and I'm going kind of off of my head. I did write some notes, but knowing me, I talk a lot, so we'll try and keep this as short and sweet as possible. And then the second part is why the understanding the buyer and then understanding and doing in-depth competitor research is so important so that you can find a gap in the market, which will help you with your branding. So the difference between today and the last podcast or YouTube video that I did around branding is that last time I was more about teaching you guys the different types of brand archetypes and how we can use brand archetypes to help us to come up with a brand identity or a brand personality, I should say. And I spent only a little bit of kind of time really speaking about how we get to that. And that was more of a presentation where today I want to more do a little bit of storytelling of something I actually went through specifically today. I've been through this in different ways in my own journey and also with working with people. But today it's fresh in my brain. And I was like, I need to talk about this because I feel like it can help people as well. So some of you may know there is this saying, market product fit. And then there is the saying product market fit, right? The difference is me trying to bring it to the Amazon world, okay? The difference would be you find a product, you then find the right market to product that you find the right market to sell that product to, and then you make it fit within your positioning within that specific market. But it started with a product first. And then market product fit would be more of when you found a market, let's just say in the Amazon world, you may have found a niche, then you build a product collection for that market and you'd find the way to position yourself within that. Working with this client, we found a product. So it started with a product. He came up with a product idea, which I can't share, but I will say that it is a product that is for kids for traveling. And that's where the thought came from. That's where the idea came from. It was basically taking a certain type of product or products from one niche and repurposing them to a different niche and adding a twist to it to make it specifically for travel. Okay. If I had to give it a different example in a totally different niche from that, it would be taking, for example, flower seeds and putting it in packaging that says, I don't know, that's to do with a baby shower, and then calling it a baby shower favor as example, right? So you're not really selling, at the end of the day, flower seeds. You're selling a baby shower product. So repurposing a product from one niche and selling it as a totally different product. Same thing here. It's a type of kid's toy that isn't patented and that he can sell, and then put a twist on it by the way that he's marketing it specifically to the travel niche, right? That's where it started from. It started from him driving in his car and, thinking about the specific problem that parents have that want less screen time for their kids. So that was the problem it came with, and that was him solving a problem. We looked into the niche, kind of made the product, differentiated the product in a way where I believed that it can work. Working on this product, it's a product that, because of his differentiation, it requires quite a bit of development. It's taken quite a while, longer than I expected to just get to the sampling stage. There were so many moving parts that we didn't take into consideration in the beginning, which is okay. But because of that, in the meantime, he started also looking into other products as products 2 and 3. And then products 2 and 3 were also around kids, but they were in the kitchen niche and totally not related in any way whatsoever to the first product. Not even the same type of age group, like totally different. Like, just to give an exaggeration of difference, it would be to sell a product to like a 10-year-old and then suddenly sell products for babies. Okay, yeah, they're both kids, but it's totally a different niche, and not necessarily the people buying the product for the 10-year-old are then going to want to buy the stuff for babies. So totally not connected to one another in any way. Now, the first product was for the concept was kind of about how we can take screen time away and focus on giving kids something to do while they're traveling. And the second product and the third product, which were different variations of sort of the same product within the kitchen niche, one of them could somehow fit into some way into the first one, and the second can't at all. So basically, we have one product that's being developed that we both really believed in. That was like he really thought of that product as he's really hyped about that product and solving a problem. And then these two other products, where they're easier to bring to market, they don't require as much product development as the first one, but they have nothing to do with the first product. So we were having a conversation. Today's conversation was about his brand identity. He's already filed for a trademark. We already thought of a name that could be for any type of kids thing, so it was fine. We kind of needed to then speak about the logo, the color scheme, a slogan, and sort of build an actual brand identity for this brand. And my goal was to see if there was any way that we can sort of try and connect the two products into the same world somehow. Because I believe, and this is from my experience, there are many people that will listen to this podcast or watch this video who have launched products that have absolutely nothing to do with one another, put it under the same brand, and it's worked. Great. In 2023, when it's all about branding and actually building some sort of connection and making people feel a certain way about your brand, it's easier, and in general on a marketing level, it's easier if your products are somehow for a very similar purpose or a very similar buyer avatar, A, for upselling, and B, for cross-selling. And in general, targeting those types of buyers, it's easier when it's very clear who the buyer is, and you can sort of piggyback off of each other's product, like of your product, different product ranges. So the goal for me of that call was to help him to build a brand identity, but also try and see how we can take these 3 different products and try and fit them under the same umbrella, under the same type of niche, even though they come from 2 totally different worlds. I if there's some things that I'm very, very good at, one of them is doing exactly what I wanted to do, to do what I just explained. I'm pretty good at trying to be able to bring products into the same world. And sometimes it takes time, and that's part of why we were on the call for so long. So I said, okay, look, we currently have, for product number 1, we have a buyer avatar. We have a purpose for the product. Product number 2 is a totally different buyer avatar. Product number 3 is a totally different buyer avatar. Product number 2, we can somehow piggyback off trying to make it somewhat travel-y. Product number 3 has absolutely nothing to do with it. What can we do? What can we change? What can we do to try and fit the two together? So remember, the whole idea for product number 1 came from the travel niche. Throughout our conversation, and we were speaking about it, and the more that he was understanding how if you can somehow bring the products together under the same type of umbrella on a niche level, it'll be easier for our entire brand and marketing strategy. He was more open to thinking about, well, maybe it doesn't need to be specifically travel. Maybe we can focus on, making the products specifically for fidgety kids, or maybe we can make the products for, camping or whatever. I'm just throwing random stuff out there that have nothing to do with the actual idea. So the thing about products number 2, and the thing about when you're trying to make products for, that are not necessarily going to be used at home, but outside of home, which, by the way, all of the products can be used at home. We're trying to think of a way of how we can repurpose it for a specific purpose, where we can try and be sharks in a specific niche and dominate in a niche, rather than try and cater a product to everyone that can be used everywhere, right? Sometimes it's easier and better to focus on something more niche-y and dominate there than try to sell to everyone. And the example I used was, Melissa and Doug as a really big brand. They cater to many, many different types of niches under the toys category. I said, but we can be the Melissa and Doug of a niche. Let's find that niche where we can put these 3 products and then think about other products under that product range, and only make products that are on brand, that fit the purpose of the brand. Because what is the purpose of the brand right now? Right? If the original purpose of the brand was, well, we're going to be saving on screen time, we're helping you to keep your kids busy, instead of needing to open up a screen and to take away screen time or reduce screen time. Product number 3 has nothing to do with that, and product number 2 doesn't really have anything to do with that either. But what can we do to try and think of a way to make it so they can be? So we had a look at a few different options of what we could do. We could take this product into these products, how we can do that, how we combine the worlds is what I'm trying to say. How can we combine the worlds? So if we started with travel, we were like, okay, well, we can add, some sort of storage or case or whatever to product number 2 and 3. And then we can make that travel. But are people actually going to spend a little bit more? Are people actually going to care about the differentiation if we make that specifically on the travel? And then we spoke about, okay, well, instead of that, why don't we, and I'm trying to shorten this as much as possible, but this was 3.5 hours to come to the end conclusion. And the second thing we thought about, well, the one thing that is similar between product number 1, 2, and 3 is it can be about, instead of focusing on travel, we can say that, well, doing our brand's about day-to-day activities that kids do, making them fun, right? And I could have made that sound sexier, but that's kind of how it came out at that time, And I was like, okay, well, if we no longer focus on travel, even though that's where his idea originally came from, and that's where we did all the research on originally, and that's where I joined all of the Facebook groups with kids and traveling with kids, and all of the research was done around travel, right? If we're now changing it to, well, instead of that, the only way we can currently make these products fit under the same type of umbrella of a niche is making day-to-day activities, super fun. That's great, but now are we trying to be everywhere instead of trying to focus on a specific niche? Yes, by doing that, we've been able to now connect the products in some way where it can be for a similar buyer avatar, or you know what, not a similar buyer avatar, but for a similar purpose, right? But the more that we looked into that, the harder it was to find a gap in the market on something that could help us really pop out from the crowd on the search page on Amazon, because we're thinking mostly about Amazon at launch. Later, we'll think about off Amazon. So when I'm thinking about this on an Amazon level, I more or less already understand his buyer avatars, even if I'm no longer looking at this product range on a travel. I more or less understand his buyers. I now need to understand the competitors, and I already knew the competitors on a travel level. Now I need to learn the competitors on this new idea that we had. So we went onto Amazon. We looked at a few different keywords. We had a look at the first page. We had a look at who actually is doing branding and who is just another, random private label seller or typical copy paste type of Chinese seller. And it's not that there wasn't a gap there. It's that I felt that we were trying to be everywhere, or it was going to be a little bit harder to stay focused on something very, very specific. So I was like, look, this is an idea. We're tossing around these different ideas. Let's think a little bit more. So remember, now what we've done is we came from originally thinking that we're going to be a fun travel brand, kids travel brand, to now, okay, instead we're going to be turning activities into day-to-day activities into something fun. And now we're trying to think about, well, we don't want to be specifically travel because it's hard to put product number 2 and 3 into that. We don't want to be everywhere where we're just making day-to-day stuff fun, which, there can be a twist and that can be an idea. What else can we do? So what we were looking for was something in between. And then we both kind of at the same time were like, well, why don't we then instead make it when you're out and about? Now, we'll look further into that, but when you're out and about doesn't necessarily mean that you are only traveling, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're at home doing day-to-day activities. You're out doing stuff with your kids where, you usually give them a phone. Instead, we want you to we would like for you to give them our products. And now we had a way where we could take product 1, 2, and 3, right? Product number 1 is already in development. It can stay as it is. Product 2 and 3 are still on a concept level and can be changed, and we can add things to them to make them fit this new out and about thing. Because traveling, when we say traveling, it's usually in a plane or in a bus or in a train or whatever it may be. Our new concept was but something else as well. So it's not only putting us in the box of travel where it was harder to bring product 2 and 3 there. It's now out and about, right? Then we looked there. I was like, okay, look, we need to now think about certain types of keywords, because you have to think about how you're going to place yourself. Where are you going to place yourself on an Amazon level? What that means is on what types of keywords. What keywords make sense? Do you need to piggyback? Do keywords exist? Or do you need to piggyback of other types of keywords? Or do you need to piggyback of other types of keywords? So we had a look at that. We found some keywords that made sense, and then, root keywords and then other longer tail keywords from within that. We had a look at the main types of competitors, and there we found a gap for a specific type of branding concept that we could come up with. We saw, 3 or 4 different types of archetypes that existed, meaning certain brands that have very specific type of brand personalities. I'm just going to make them up as an example. Let's just say that the leading brands within that type of niche were very much, let's just say, an innocent type of brand and a caregiving type of brand, and one was very much a magician type of brand. But no one, and this is just me giving examples, it's not actually the scenario, but no one, for example, was doing the jester, right? No one was super, super fun and playful or use humor or whatever it may be. So now we found a gap in the market. So what am I getting to here, right? We understood who the buyer avatar was, and then we changed the buyer avatar, right? After doing so much research on the first type of buyer avatar, getting into a lot of different travel Facebook groups, watching a lot of different YouTube videos around travel, seeing how people use these types of products, and then finding a way to differentiate it. Now I had to learn a new type of buyer, right? Because it was no longer focused specifically about travel. Now I already knew competitors from the travel niche. Now I need to learn a whole new or look at different types of competitors, because now I need to look for a gap in the market for a type of branding that will help me to stand out from the search page from the minute you see me, and then the minute that you click on me, you can also then see not only the differentiation on a product level, but I can use different type of emotional triggering types of words, emotional triggering types of images, etc. The entire type of branding of it to help convert something. And I want to always see something that no one else is necessarily doing. So the moral of the story here is, when it came to brand identity and building a brand personality, we ended up totally changing, right, the purpose of the original product, right? The purpose of the product was originally one thing, and it's now we've made the purpose of the product something else, because in the original idea that we had on a branding level, there wasn't a way to merge, to build an actual, it meant that product number one on a brand level, to try and think of a bigger picture of building an actual brand with a catalog of products that are going to be able to be focused on specific type of buyer avatars. The next type of products would then mean that we have to stick only specifically into that niche. And what we did is we found a different niche that's kind of like a subcategory to the first niche, or maybe the first niche is a subcategory to this. I've got to think about that. And we've given the products a new purpose, which means that now before we even develop product 2 and 3, we have a different purpose for them, where you can see how these products are there connected to one another, where if we're now doing it on the A+ content, we're adding, let's just say, a comparison chart. It's not like we're selling two totally different products. They're products that are on brand and they make sense to one another. And now we can actually give the brand a purpose. So for example, we want to be the go-to brand when you're out and about with your kids. No more screen time. You buy our products no matter what you're doing, different types of activities. Whereas originally it was very hard to bring product 2 and 3 to that. So the moral of the story, and what I am getting to, is sometimes when you're coming to build your brand personality, you may not find a gap in what your original purpose was. And sometimes you need to think outside the box of what can you do, even if that sometimes means, well, if I'm placing my products in this specific niche, but I can repurpose it into a sub niche, and I actually can find a way to really, really stand out there on a branding level, and the keywords exist, and it's good enough demand. Sometimes you're going to then change the purpose of your products or the purpose of your brand, and actually change your buyer avatar, because it makes a better fit, and it allows you to build a much better brand personality and give your brand an identity that's going to stand out. And you need to do that by understanding your buyers and understanding your competitors, right? Because the minute you understand your buyers and the minute you understand your competitors really, really well, and obviously you understand how to do keyword research, etc., then you can find that gap, and then you can build your identity, your brand personality and identity on that. Wow, I don't feel like I even stopped to take a breath there. I really, really hope that I made sense. This is the kind of stuff that I live for. Like, I can speak about product development and and branding all day long. I'm so passionate about this. I live and breathe this. This is the stuff that I actually do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's for myself or through helping and consulting other people and helping them to build their brands. So I really, really hope I made sense here. The moral of the story was how sometimes when we're in our brand personality building or our branding strategizing for our branding strategy, we sometimes may try and then fit our product line to also make sense for that. And if something doesn't make sense, can we make sense of it, if that makes sense? And then also the second lesson here is why understanding the buyer and doing in-depth competitor research is really, really important for you to find a gap in what's missing so that you can fill that gap with something like amazing. And I know that in the last video, I used dude wipes as an example. I'm going to use them again now. If you think about dude wipes at the end of the day, what they've done is they have taken, wipes, all right, for men, and they've made them 2 to 3 times as big, right? And then they've taken their entire differentiation point is their branding, right? If you think about dude wipes, technically, anyone could have gone into the hygiene niche, had a look at these wipes, and anyone could have sold those wipes. It's not that the wipes are extremely, extremely different from other flushable wipes. Anyone could have made flushable wipes a little bit bigger. What they did is they came in and they were like, no one's disrupted this specific niche. No one's come in with a big, fuck you mentality and super, super funny and hilarious and branded in that way, where you straight away, you have that type of connection with them that you'll buy specifically from them and no one else. They've built a very specific community around such, it's not pathetic products, it's toiletry products. They've done such a good job at making them fun and stand out, and no one else was doing that. And that's what I'm talking about, right? Sometimes that is the differentiator. It's your branding, and what you need is to find a gap. What is no one else doing? Right? And sometimes it's not about hardcore changing a specific product. It's taking a product, repurposing it, for example, for something else. So they took, normal flushable wipes. They've repurposed it specifically now for men, and then they just went hardcore on their branding and their marketing strategy. That's what they did. And that's kind of what I'm consistently building and doing with other people as well, and also myself, where how can I find a gap where my branding can it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things. How can I find a gap where my branding is so good that that's the main or part of the main differentiator, and you have to do competitor research and you have to understand your buyers, and that's how you find the gap. I'm on a tangent here. I'm going to stop. I hope this helped you, whoever is listening to this. If you are in need of help with your brand building or product development journey, I will remind you all that I do one-on-one coaching. You can go to SharonEvan.com to book a call with me or reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Sharon Evan, EVEN, anywhere on socials. If you have not subscribed wherever you're watching this or listening to this, please do. It really helps us, whether it's my YouTube channel or the Salad Sessions podcast. It really helps us to grow. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you all next time.